Boy, you think that uniform makes you somebody? Deputy Ryan Caldwell snarled, his voice thick with contempt under the bright morning light. In one swift, merciless motion, he raised his service weapon and fired 3 shots directly into Captain Elijah Grant's chest. Elijah reeled backward, a sharp cry escaping his lips as searing pain tore through him. He crumpled to the pavement, blood spreading rapidly across his shirt. Each breath a struggle, each heartbeat a reminder of betrayal and utter humiliation. A proud officer, defender of his nation, now lying wounded and helpless at the feet of hatred. Those 3 bullets, captured in crisp detail by Caldwell's own body camera, would prove to be the beginning of the end. They would unravel a carefully hidden world of extremism, destroy careers built on false authority, and force a reckoning that no badge could shield. Before we go deeper into this powerful story, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. If it moves you, please subscribe and like. It helps share these important truths. Captain Elijah Grant had given 20 years of his life to the United States Army. At 45, he was a captain nearing retirement, respected by his soldiers, decorated for courage under fire during 2 tours in Iraq. He carried himself with quiet dignity, the kind earned through hardship and sacrifice. That morning, he had finished an overnight shift at the base, tired but content. He drove his aging Ford Explorer toward home, thinking of his son away at college, planning a quick call to hear the boy's voice. The flashing lights appeared suddenly in his rearview mirror. Elijah pulled over without delay. He placed both hands visibly on the steering wheel, just as he had been taught, both in the military and by hard experience as a black man navigating American roads. When Deputy Caldwell approached the window, Elijah spoke calmly. "Good morning, officer. My license and registration are in the glove compartment. I am active duty Army. My military ID is in my wallet." Caldwell's face hardened. "Step out of the vehicle." "Sir, may I reach for my ID first?" Elijah asked, keeping his tone respectful. "I gave you an order." Caldwell snapped. "Out! Now!" Elijah opened the door slowly, hands raised high. He stepped onto the pavement, standing tall in civilian clothes that hid none of his bearing. "Officer, I am complying. I am not armed. I am not resisting." Caldwell's response was immediate. He deployed pepper spray straight into Elijah's face. The burn was instant, blinding. Elijah staggered, eyes streaming, coughing violently. Yet he kept his hands up. "Please, sir, check my ID." "You don't tell me what to do," Caldwell growled. He shoved Elijah hard against the car, then stepped back. His hand moved to his holster. Elijah, half blind from the spray, raised his hands higher. "Officer, I am no threat. I serve this country." Caldwell's eyes held cold fury. He drew his pistol. "You people always think you're above the law." The first shot struck center chest. Elijah gasped, shock and agony flooding him. The second and third followed in rapid succession. He felt his legs give way. The world tilted. He hit the ground hard, blood warm and spreading beneath him. Pain consumed everything. Breath came in ragged gasps. Humiliation burned deeper than the wounds. Reduced to this, on a public road, for no crime beyond existing, in the distance. Sirens began to wail. A second patrol car had rounded the corner just in time to witness the aftermath. The arriving officer's voice cracked over the radio. "Shots fired. Officer involved. Victim down. He's military. Send ambulances now." Paramedics fought to stabilize Elijah on scene. His heart faltered once, then steadied under their urgent care. At the hospital, surgeons worked for hours, removing bullets, repairing damage. One round had missed his heart by less than an inch. He survived, but the cost was immense. Physical scars, lingering pain, and a wound to the soul that no surgery could mend. His sister Tanya arrived as he emerged from recovery, a civil rights attorney with fire in her eyes. She demanded the body camera footage immediately when she viewed it in a quiet hospital room. Tears of rage fell silently. "This will not stand," she said firmly. "We will fight this. Elijah." All the way. News of the shooting spread rapidly through the base. Fellow soldiers gathered in shock. Colonel Patricia Reyes received the report and felt a deep anger mixed with sorrow. She had seen too many such cases. But this one struck close. Elijah was one of hers. By afternoon, the body camera video began circulating online, released by an anonymous source within the department who could no longer stay silent. Public reaction was swift and fierce. Calls for justice echoed across social media. Protests formed outside the sheriff's office by evening, in his hospital bed, hooked to monitors. Elijah drifted between pain and awareness. Each shallow breath reminded him of the bullets. Each visitor reminded him of the brotherhood he still had, in quiet moments. He stared at the ceiling and made a silent promise. He had survived war zones overseas. He would survive this betrayal at home, and he would see justice done. That morning's violence had set something irreversible in motion. The shots fired in anger would echo far beyond one man's body. They would expose truths long buried, force accountability long delayed, and change the course of many lives. Elijah closed his eyes, gripping the bedsheet against the pain. He thought of his son, of the soldiers he had led, of the oath he had sworn to defend the Constitution. He would not let hatred win. Not this time. Captain Elijah Grant lay motionless in the intensive care unit, surrounded by the steady hum of monitors. Pain pulsed from his chest wounds with every careful breath. Doctors had saved his life, removing 3 bullets in a long surgery. One had come dangerously close to his heart. Physically, he would recover. Emotionally, the damage ran far deeper. In the weeks that followed, a heavy shadow settled over him. The post-traumatic stress disorder from his 2 tours in Iraq returned without mercy. Flashbacks struck in broad daylight. He heard the crack of gunfire from that morning, felt the impact again and again. Caldwell's words replayed endlessly. "Boy, you think that uniform makes you somebody?" Rage mixed with profound sorrow. He had faced enemy fire overseas, yet survived only to be shot on an American road for no reason. Doubt crept in. Faith in the system he had served began to crack. Elijah withdrew completely. He turned away fellow soldiers who came to visit. He spoke little, even to nurses. He stared at blank walls, wrestling with questions no one could answer. The body camera video spread like wildfire, released anonymously from within the sheriff's department the day after the shooting. It reached millions within hours. Viewers saw the calm compliance, the unprovoked pepper spray, the hateful words, the 3 shots into an unarmed man's chest. Outrage exploded across the country. Veterans groups marched. Civil rights leaders spoke out. Protests formed daily outside the sheriff's office in Virginia Beach. Hashtags carried the story nationwide. News networks replayed the footage, commentators demanding immediate federal action. Colonel Patricia Reyes learned of the shooting during a morning briefing at the Pentagon. Her heart sank. Elijah Grant was more than a capable officer. He was a mentor to younger troops, a steady presence in chaos. She cleared her schedule and flew to Virginia Beach that same day, arriving at the hospital early the next morning. She sat beside his bed. "Elijah," she said gently, "you do not face this alone. The entire chain of command stands behind you." He met her eyes briefly, then looked away, with respect. "Colonel, the system protects its own, and I'm not sure I'm one of them anymore." Tanya Grant refused to accept defeat. As a civil rights attorney with years of fighting injustice, she arrived each morning like clockwork. She brought legal updates, coordinated with the Department of Justice, and held his hand through the worst pain. "This is not just your fight," she told him one quiet morning. "It is for every Black service member who puts on the uniform believing it will earn respect. We will hold them accountable, Dr. Sofia Alvarez, the hospital's lead trauma psychologist, met with Elijah every day. She had treated countless veterans and understood the unique betrayal he felt. "Captain Grant," she said during one session, "what you experienced combines combat trauma with violation by the very institutions meant to protect you. The anger is valid, the doubt is valid, but silence gives power to those who harmed you." Elijah listened, nodding slowly, yet words still came hard. Then, one clear morning, 10 days after the shooting, Keisha Washington arrived. She entered the room quietly, carrying the weight of her own loss. Keisha's husband, Sergeant Daniel Washington, had been killed during a traffic stop in North Carolina 2 years earlier. The officer claimed justification, but evidence pointed to prejudice. No charges were ever filed. Keisha had turned grief into purpose, advocating for military families facing similar injustice. She sat beside Elijah's bed, her voice calm yet filled with quiet power. "Captain Grant," she began, "my Daniel served 22 honorable years. He survived Afghanistan, came home to us, and died on a roadside for nothing more than driving while black. I know the darkness that surrounds you now. I lived in it for months. But good men like you cannot stay silent. Our sons are watching. Our daughters are watching. Thousands in uniform are watching. If you speak, you give them hope." She unfolded a triangular flag, the one presented at her husband's funeral, and placed it gently on his tray table. Daniel believed in the promise of this country. He would want you to fight for that promise, not abandon it. Elijah stared at the flag. Memories flooded him, leading young soldiers through danger, watching them grow, sharing the bond of service. Tears welled up, the first he had allowed since the shooting. His voice, hoarse from disuse, finally broke through. "Mrs. Washington, tell me about Daniel." They talked for hours. She shared stories of his laughter, his pride, his dreams for their children. In return, Elijah spoke of his own son, of missions overseas, of the oath that still meant something to him. When Keisha left that afternoon, something shifted inside Elijah. The darkness remained, but a spark had ignited. General Marcus Hale, high in the Department of Defense, monitored developments closely. A veteran of earlier conflicts, he carried regrets from times when such incidents were ignored. He would not allow repetition. He ordered full resources, top medical care, legal support, security for Elijah's family. "We protect our own," he stated firmly in a secure briefing. Support poured in from unexpected places. Letters arrived from active duty troops. Messages flooded Tanya's phone from veterans nationwide. Former comrades visited when Elijah finally allowed it, sharing quiet words of solidarity. Physical therapy began. Each step hurt. Each breath pulled at healing scars. Yet he pressed on. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the window, Elijah asked Tanya for his laptop. He watched the body camera video alone for the first time. Pain surged anew, physical and emotional, but resolve grew stronger. He closed the computer and looked at his sister. "File every charge possible," he said, voice steady. "I will testify. I will see this through." Colonel Reyes visited again soon after. She brought official news. The Justice Department had launched a full civil rights probe. Federal agents were already at work. "Elijah," she said with pride, "your courage matters. This case will be different because of you." Keisha returned often, bringing strength and shared understanding. Together, they spoke of healing, of justice, of the long fight ahead. Elijah Grant had nearly died that morning on the roadside. Instead, he began to rise. The awakening was painful, but it was real. He would not only survive, he would stand tall once more, demanding the accountability his country owed him, and every service member like him. The path forward would be hard, but for the first time since the shots rang out, Elijah felt purpose return. Special Agent Jamal Torres arrived at the hospital on a quiet morning 3 weeks after the shooting. He introduced himself to Captain Elijah Grant with the respect due a fellow public servant. "Captain, I lead the FBI's Civil Rights Division team on your case. The Department of Justice has prioritized this investigation." Elijah, propped up in bed with bandages still binding his chest, nodded slowly. Pain flared with movement, but his mind was sharp. Torres laid out the initial focus, a standard probe into excessive force and civil rights violations by Deputy Ryan Caldwell. Yet the early evidence pointed elsewhere. With a federal warrant, agents seized Caldwell's phone, laptop, and home computer. What emerged in the forensic analysis shifted the entire direction. Encrypted apps revealed membership in Patriot Vanguard, an extremist organization structured much like others the FBI had monitored for years. Leaked rosters, already in federal hands from prior investigations, listed over 400 members, active duty police, sheriff's deputies, and former military across 8 eastern states. Caldwell's name stood out, linked to regional leadership chats. Elijah absorbed the information in silence at first. The shots that morning were not mere rage. They were calculated. Torres continued carefully. "We arrested Carl Donovan yesterday, a mid-level Veterans Affairs database contractor. He has confessed to selling veteran records for 3 years, addresses, service histories, family contacts. His buyers included Patriot Vanguard operatives. Donovan's motive mixed profit with bitterness over military diversity policies he despised. Among the thousands of records sold was Elijah's complete file, flagged months earlier as a priority observation due to his rank and race. The weight of it settled heavily. Someone had studied him, chosen him. Anger rose. But Elijah channeled it. "How many others?" he asked. Torres met his gaze. "Dozens we know of so far. Harassment, fabricated stops, assaults. Some ended in shootings ruled justified locally." The pattern chilled the room. Colonel Patricia Reyes attended the next morning briefing via secure video from the Pentagon. She had advocated for full Department of Defense involvement. General Marcus Hale approved it immediately. "Captain Grant's case exposes a threat to our personnel." He stated, "Military intelligence analysts, including Sergeant Lana Kim, began cross-referencing Veterans Affairs leaks with known extremist watch lists. Kim worked long mornings, tracing digital footprints. Her reports confirmed recruitment through private online groups where disinformation spread unchecked. Narratives portraying minority officers as internal threats to American values." Tanya Grant sat through every session, legal pad in hand. She challenged gaps, demanded timelines. "We need every victim identified." She pressed. Torres agreed. Subpoenas flew to telecom companies, social platforms, banks. More stories emerged. A Latino Marine followed home in Georgia. A black naval officer repeatedly pulled over in Maryland. A female Asian American veteran threatened in South Carolina. One case mirrored Keisha Washington's tragedy. A sergeant killed during a stop. The officer quietly tied to the same network through leaked messages. Dr. Sofia Alvarez monitored Elijah's emotional state closely. The revelations stirred fresh trauma. Sleep grew fitful. Pain medications helped the body. But the mind raced. "In therapy one morning," she said gently, "you are processing betrayal on a scale few face. It is normal to feel rage." Elijah responded with new determination. "Rage without action is wasted. Use me as your witness." He began reviewing evidence files from his recovery room. Mornings became routine. Physical therapy first, then secure briefings. He spotted details others missed, coded phrases from his own military experience, patrol patterns suggesting coordination. His insights proved invaluable. Keisha Washington visited regularly, bringing quiet strength. One morning, she shared new letters from other widows and families. "Your cooperation is giving them hope," she said. Elijah took encouragement from it. He spoke with his son more often, explaining the fight without shielding the pain. "This is why we serve," he told the young man, "to make the country better than we found it." General Hale called personally again. "Captain, your analysis has opened doors we did not know existed. Continue as you are able." Elijah thanked him, then asked about broader protections. Plans were forming, alerts to bases, training on recognizing extremist signs, direct reporting channels to federal authorities. Torres returned frequently. Trust deepened into partnership. One pivotal morning, he asked outright, "Captain Grant, will you be our primary cooperating witness? Your testimony, as a decorated officer targeted for who you are, carries moral weight no one else can match." Elijah weighed the dangers. Online threats had escalated. Anonymous calls to Tanya, subtle surveillance noted by security details. Yet he thought of young troops, of Keisha's children, of the oath that bound him still. That same afternoon, after therapy, Elijah gave his answer. "Agent Torres, I am in." All the way, interviews intensified. Mornings in a secure conference room. Elijah recounted every second of the stop. The calm compliance, the pepper spray, the shots into his chest. He described the physical agony, the deeper humiliation, the moment he believed he would die on that road. His voice remained measured, powerful, unflinching. Prosecutors took detailed notes. The case grew from one officer's crime into a conspiracy indictment. More arrests came quietly. Mid-level members caught with Donovan's data. Bank records showed small payments traced to Voss. Ex-Lieutenant Harlan Voss. Discharged honorably on paper, but removed quietly for radical views. He had transformed Patriot Vanguard into a shadow network, meetings masked as veteran support groups, training weekends billed as tactical refreshers. Sheriff Douglas Barrett's name surfaced repeatedly. Messages proved he knew of Caldwell's affiliations, yet intervened to protect him after prior complaints. Loyalty to the badge outweighed duty to the law. As months passed, Elijah moved to a secure rehabilitation facility. Physical strength returned gradually. Scars tightened. But he walked farther each morning. Mentally, purpose solidified. He reviewed grand jury preparations, advised on military culture for agents, connected Torres with other victims willing to speak. The network's reach became clearer, not random bigotry, but organized intimidation aimed at minority service members. Foreign disinformation amplified it online, sowing division for distant benefit. Elijah Grant now saw the full threat. Those bullets were intended to terrorize and silence. Instead, they had forged an unbreakable witness. The uncovering continued. Deeper each day. Justice demanded thoroughness. He would provide it, no matter the cost. Light was breaking through the darkness, and Elijah stood ready to carry it forward. Ex-Lieutenant Harlan Voss once wore the uniform with pride, commanding respect in Army intelligence units. His downfall began gradually. Superiors noted increasingly sharp comments about recruitment standards, diversity training, and what he termed political interference in military readiness. Warnings followed. Voss doubled down. A final incident, an email chain criticizing leadership decisions, led to his forced retirement. The papers cited conduct unbecoming. But Voss saw conspiracy, alone on his Suffolk farm. Mornings became hours of reading fringe sites. Resentment grew into conviction. He started small online groups for real veterans. Patriot Vanguard was born from those quiet beginnings, a network vowing to safeguard the nation from what Voss believed was internal erosion. Ryan Caldwell's journey mirrored many. A Marine sergeant with multiple combat deployments, he returned home to chronic pain and unseen wounds. Medications helped the body but clouded the mind. Civilian jobs felt meaningless. Mornings stretched empty. He joined veteran forums seeking connection. Posts lamenting lost discipline caught his eye. One morning, an algorithm pushed a video. Voss speaking plainly about threats from within the ranks. We served the real America. Voss said, now it's slipping away. Caldwell watched, rewatched, then reached out. Private messages led to invitations. Weekend gatherings in remote fields blended shooting drills with talks on duty beyond service. Caldwell felt purpose return. Belonging replaced isolation. Views shifted month by month. Diversity became division. Minority leaders became symbols of decline. Caldwell volunteered eagerly, monitoring lists, reporting sightings, coordinating with local law enforcement contacts. Sheriff Douglas Barrett navigated politics carefully. Elected on promises of strong policing, he courted conservative voters with tough rhetoric. Complaints against aggressive deputies rose, including several against Caldwell. Barrett reviewed them each morning, then routed most to internal affairs for quiet resolution. Loyalty mattered. One morning, an invitation arrived for a veteran law enforcement seminar. Voss hosted. Barrett attended as guest speaker. Discussions stayed professional on surface. Budgets, training gaps. Beneath, shared frustrations surfaced. Barrett heard echoes of his constituents' concerns. He left without joining, but with new contacts. Later reports of Caldwell's activities reached his desk. Barrett weighed risks. Exposure could cost elections. Silence preserved order. He chose the latter. Carl Donovan worked quietly in Veterans Affairs systems for decades, a mid-level contractor managing veteran databases. He watched policies evolve. Benefits expanded. Diversity goals rose. His own advancement stalled. Resentment simmered. One morning, an encrypted message offered payment for discrete data queries. Donovan paused, then accepted. Early transfers seemed minor. Basic service records. Payments arrived promptly. Justification grew easier. He convinced himself he corrected imbalances, earned what bureaucracy denied. Requests escalated. Full profiles on minority officers, addresses, routines. Donovan supplied them without hesitation. Mornings at his terminal became routine extraction. Funds built a comfortable buffer. Guilt faded entirely. Patriot Vanguard matured under Voss's guidance. Mornings brought recruitment drives through targeted ads on veteran platforms. Disinformation flowed. Fabricated stories of military favoritism, foreign manipulation via progressive policies, vulnerable men, recently separated, struggling financially, feeling forgotten, found community. Voss nurtured carefully. Initial meetings focused on shared service memories. Ideology deepened gradually. Sessions mixed practical skills with lectures on threats. Members rose through commitment, monitoring, reporting, occasional direct action. Caldwell embodied full transformation. Once guided by Marine values of honor and inclusivity, he now viewed difference as danger. Mornings on shift. He cross-referenced plates against Donovan's updates. Elijah Grant appeared prominent. Visible rank, community involvement, black officer succeeding in what Caldwell saw as corrupted system. Watching became fixation. Opportunity awaited. Barrett received indirect benefits. Crime statistics improved through aggressive patrols. Voter approval held steady. Whispers of deputy involvement in private groups reached him. He deflected inquiries, praising initiative. Political survival demanded selective vision. Donovan expanded access. Higher clearance brought broader data. He rationalized deeply, restoring fairness, supporting those truly deserving. Payments funded comforts he felt entitled to after years overlooked. Special Agent Torres pieced timelines during morning reviews with Elijah. Digital trails painted clear progression. Voss's old emails showed early radicalization. Caldwell's browser history traced isolation to indoctrination. Barrett's calendar entries confirmed event attendance. Donovan's financial spikes matched data transfers. Elijah studied reports carefully. Recognition struck deeply. These were not innate villains. They were men who chose darkness over light, step by deliberate step, bitterness unchecked, community poisoned, duty twisted into justification, understanding fueled resolve, not sympathy. They had choices. He told Torres one morning, every day. They chose wrong. Tanya compiled motive evidence. Messages celebrated successful contacts. Shared articles blamed diversity for perceived military decline. Patterns emerged. Targeted intimidation of minority service members. Keisha Washington read summaries Elijah forwarded. "The same poison took my Daniel," she said softly during a visit. "Shared loss strengthened alliance." Colonel Reyes relayed military findings. General Hale expanded audits. Sergeant Kim uncovered amplification networks, overseas linked accounts boosting divisive content precisely to vulnerable feeds. Dr. Sofia Alvarez noted Elijah's growing clarity. "Understanding the process helps you face it," she observed. Therapy mornings shifted from pain to strategy. The radicalization revealed itself fully, not explosion, but erosion. Mornings of doubt turned evenings of certainty. Isolation weaponized into coordinated threat. Personal grievance scaled into network danger. Voss sensed gathering storm. Morning preparations intensified. Contingency plans, evidence dispersal, emergency signals. Barrett doubled down on department unity messages. Exposure loomed, but denial held. Caldwell patrolled with heightened vigilance. Purpose burned bright. Donovan continued transfers. Unaware surveillance closed in. Elijah reflected nightly. He had guided soldiers through moral tests overseas. Now he faced domestic ones. The difference lay in daily choices, to heal or harm, unite or divide. Torres prepared broader indictments. Conspiracy layered atop civil rights crimes. The network's skeleton exposed. Architect, recruiters, enablers, executors. Elijah's scars reminded constantly. Physical limits eased. Moral strength solidified. He would confront these corrupted choices, ensure consequences matched harm. The radicalization had forged weapons from broken men. Justice would dismantle them, piece by piece. Understanding the descent clarified the ascent needed. Elijah Grant prepared for the confrontation ahead. Steady and unafraid. Light always follows exposure. He would help bring it. After 8 months of meticulous investigation, the FBI launched the operation on a cool spring morning. 32 locations across multiple states faced simultaneous dawn raids. Special Agent Jamal Torres had coordinated every detail in late-night briefings. "We prioritize safety and evidence." He reminded teams, lives matter more than arrests. Captain Elijah Grant recovered enough for limited duty, though chest scars tightened with stress. Requested assignment to the team targeting ex-Lieutenant Harlan Voss. "I need to be there," he told Torres firmly. "Not for vengeance, for the soldiers who cannot speak." Torres weighed the request, then agreed. Elijah's insight into military mindset and his moral authority could prove decisive. The morning broke clear and crisp. Elijah rode in the lead armored SUV with Torres and a seasoned tactical unit. Convoy heading toward Voss's secluded farm in Suffolk, across the region. Other teams converged silently. Radios whispered confirmations. Site Alpha secure. 2 in custody. No resistance. Most locations yielded quickly. Members caught asleep or at breakfast, surrendering without fight. Evidence flowed in. Hard drives packed with recruitment files. Printed training manuals laced with ideology. Weapons lockers holding rifles and ammunition. Financial ledgers showing anonymous donations routed through apps. Carl Donovan's complete data archives surfaced intact from 3 separate homes. Sheriff Douglas Barrett's office computers revealed messages proving he ignored warnings about Caldwell for years. At Voss's compound, the response differed sharply. Motion sensors triggered early. Floodlights snapped on. Voss's voice echoed over a loudspeaker system. "This is private property. Federal agents have no jurisdiction here. Leave now." Tactical teams fanned out methodically, establishing perimeters under first light. Snipers settled into positions. Negotiators opened channels, calling for peaceful surrender. Voss refused outright. He barricaded inside the main farmhouse with 4 loyalists, armed heavily and claiming improvised explosives wired to doors. The standoff began. Hours ticked by under rising sun. Heat built gradually. Elijah remained behind cover with command, monitoring feeds. Voss broadcast intermittently, rants about government overreach, betrayal of oaths, the need to resist infiltration of institutions. His words carried the same poison that had radicalized so many. Torres observed Voss's pattern. He's stalling, hoping for media or supporters. Elijah nodded. Classic delaying tactic. He wants to control the narrative. As morning stretched toward noon, negotiators brought family members online. Wives pleaded. Children cried. One holdout surrendered first, emerging shaken with hands high. 2 more followed after heated internal arguments overheard on bugs. Voss remained defiant, alone now. Torres turned to Elijah. He might listen to a fellow officer, not as negotiator, as soldier to soldier. Elijah accepted the radio without hesitation. He keyed the mic. Voss, this is Captain Elijah Grant, United States Army. A long pause followed. Then Voss's voice, laced with recognition and scorn. Grant, the one Caldwell put down, still breathing. I see. Elijah kept composure, breathing and standing. Voss, because good people acted. Now you have a choice to act honorably. Voss laughed coldly. Honor? You climbed ranks on quotas. The military I served is gone, replaced by weakness, by those who don't belong. Elijah responded steadily. I earned my rank leading men in combat. Same as you once did. I buried brothers of every race, creed, and background who died defending this country together. Your hate divides what made us strong. It dishonors every grave I visited. Voss's tone shifted. Defensive. They forced me out for speaking truth. Political correctness over readiness. Elijah pressed gently but firmly. Truth doesn't require secret networks. It doesn't need leaked files to target innocent troops. It doesn't justify shooting an unarmed man complying on a public road. Surrender now. Face judgment like the officer you claim to be. Negotiators reinforced Elijah's words. Psychological profiles guided approach, appealing to Voss's faded sense of duty. Family pleas resumed. Sun beat down relentlessly. Dehydration set in for the holdout. Internal feeds showed pacing, growing isolation. Mid-afternoon brought breakthrough. Voss's final broadcast wavered. You may take me today, Captain, but the ideas live on. Yet exhaustion cracked his resolve. Elijah spoke once more. Ideas built on hate die in light. Voss, come out. End this without more loss. Minutes later, the front door creaked open. Voss emerged slowly, hands raised high, rifle left inside. Tactical teams swarmed forward, securing him smoothly. No shots fired, no injuries. The compound fell under full control. Evidence teams poured in through the afternoon. Servers held years of recruitment data. Message logs confirming coordination with overseas amplification accounts. Financial trails showed small but steady contributions funneled cleverly. Training videos blended legitimate tactics with extremist lectures. Target lists named dozens more service members, lives preserved by intervention. Elijah observed the arrest from command post. Voss passed nearby in cuffs, eyes meeting briefly. No words, only mutual recognition of paths irretrievably divided, one toward service, one toward destruction. Torres clasped Elijah's shoulder. It's done. The core is broken. Elijah exhaled deeply. Scars ached under warming sun. Memories of that fateful morning vivid. A major step, he replied, but trials remain. True closure comes there. Colonel Reyes phoned congratulations that evening. Your presence made the difference. Elijah, General Hale echoed praise, announcing expanded protections for at-risk personnel. Keisha Washington called, voice thick with emotion. For Daniel. And for you. Thank you. Tanya arrived later, embracing her brother tightly. Proud doesn't cover it. As dusk settled over the secured farm, Elijah walked the perimeter once. He thought of shots that nearly ended him, of long recovery nights, of choices that brought everyone here, most profoundly. He thought of tomorrow, safer mornings for troops driving to duty. The raid exceeded expectations. No casualties. Network shattered. Evidence irrefutable. Confrontation resolved not through force, but surrender to overwhelming truth. Elijah Grant departed as stars emerged. Physical wounds healed, inner strength forged anew. Justice advanced decisively. One critical morning had shifted the balance forever. Hope, hard won, began to rise. The federal trial began in Richmond on a humid summer morning 4 months after the raids. Security surrounded the courthouse, agents at every entrance, metal detectors processing lines of witnesses, journalists, and supporters. Captain Elijah Grant arrived early. Wearing his dress uniform for the first time since the shooting, ribbons and medals caught the light, silent testimony to 20 years of honorable service. Scars from the 3 bullets remained hidden beneath fabric, but occasional tightness reminded him with every breath. Special Agent Jamal Torres met him outside the courtroom doors. "This is the day truth gets its full hearing," Torres said with quiet confidence. Elijah replied simply, "Then let's make sure the jury hears it clearly." United States Attorney Vanessa Brooks led the prosecution team with relentless preparation. She had assembled an airtight case: conspiracy to deprive civil rights under color of law, domestic terrorism sentencing enhancements, unlawful access to government databases, obstruction of justice, and seditious conspiracy against the leadership. Judge Harold Jenkins, a veteran jurist known for fairness under pressure, presided with measured authority. He understood the national spotlight. Jury selection had consumed weeks, ensuring impartiality amid widespread coverage. Opening statements unfolded over 2 mornings. Brooks addressed jurors directly, voice steady and compelling. "Ladies and gentlemen, this trial is not about isolated mistakes. It is about a deliberate network that turned badges into weapons and targeted American service members because of the color of their skin or their background. They betrayed the public trust and the very oath they claimed to defend." Defense counsel countered with claims of overreach, protected free speech, and individual errors blown out of proportion. Jurors took careful notes, faces serious. Elijah testified as the centerpiece witness across 3 full mornings. He took the stand erect, eyes meeting jurors without flinching. He recounted the stop minute by minute, the sudden lights, immediate compliance, hands visible, polite words, the unprovoked pepper spray, Caldwell's hateful tone, the 3 shots into his chest. He described the physical agony, burning lungs, warm blood spreading, the world narrowing to survival. He spoke of deeper wounds, humiliation as a decorated officer reduced to bleeding on pavement for no crime. Cross-examination turned intense. Caldwell's attorney probed aggressively. "Captain, isn't it possible you made a sudden move?" Elijah answered firmly. "No, sir. The body camera shows every second. I followed orders until bullets made further compliance impossible." Another lawyer suggested provocation. Elijah responded evenly. "Provocation for existing while black in uniform? No, sir." The courtroom held its breath. His testimony carried moral force no rebuttal could shake. Other victims strengthened the pattern. Keisha Washington took the stand one emotional morning, voice trembling yet unbroken. She detailed her husband, Sergeant Daniel Washington's final traffic stop, the unjustified shots, the officer's later ties to Patriot Vanguard. "He served 22 years honorably," she said, tears falling. "He came home from war only to die here for nothing." A young Latino Marine described repeated fabricated stops that eroded his career. A female Asian American naval officer recounted threats forcing her resignation. Jurors shifted uncomfortably as connections crystallized. Evidence presentation spanned weeks of summer mornings. Torres testified extensively, guiding jurors through digital forensics, seized servers revealing recruitment chains, message threads celebrating lessons taught, target lists with Elijah's name highlighted. Sergeant Lana Kim explained online amplification. Foreign-linked accounts boosting divisive content to radicalize vulnerable veterans. Prosecutors projected financial trails. Small donations funneled cleverly to support operations. Donovan, after pleading guilty, appeared as cooperating witness. His testimony chilled, years profiting from betrayal, rationalizing sales of lives. I told myself it balanced things, he admitted, head lowered. Caldwell took the stand in defense. He claimed fear for his life, split-second choices. Brooks's cross-examination dismantled calmly. Messages surfaced, pre-shooting boasts in group chats, post-shooting celebrations. Remorse never emerged, only excuses. Barrett portrayed administrative overload. Evidence contradicted, dismissed complaints, protected deputies with known ties. His confidence eroded under scrutiny. Voss spoke last and longest. He framed Patriot Vanguard as pure patriotism. Warning of national decline. Brooks countered methodically. Patriotism does not plot against fellow citizens. It does not leak records to intimidate. It does not end with 3 bullets in a compliant officer's chest. Voss glared across at Elijah. No direct words, only the chasm of choices. Closing arguments arrived on a particularly oppressive morning. Brooks spoke to jurors with quiet power. These defendants abused sacred trust. They targeted those who defended our freedoms because they looked different. Hold them fully accountable. For Captain Grant, for Sergeant Washington, for every service member who wears the uniform expecting protection, not persecution. Defense pleas for leniency emphasized context. Regret. Jurors retired to deliberate. 8 tense days followed. Elijah spent mornings walking courthouse grounds with Tanya, reflecting with Keisha over coffee. Colonel Reyes visited midweek. Win or lose verdict, she said. You have already shifted the ground beneath them. General Hale monitored closely, preparing statements either way. Verdicts came on a bright, clear morning. The courtroom packed. Guilty on all primary counts. Caldwell, 25 years without parole. Barrett, 10 years for conspiracy and obstruction. Donovan, 15 years for database crimes. Voss, 18 years. The full seditious conspiracy term sought. Lesser members received 5 to 12 years. Several mid-trial pleas sealed cooperating deals. Elijah sat motionless as counts read. Relief washed gently, not dramatically. Keisha squeezed his hand, tears flowing freely. Tanya leaned close. It's finished, she whispered. Outside. Media swarmed. Elijah spoke briefly to cameras. Today justice honors those who serve quietly every day. We heal now. We build forward. Brooks addressed reporters. This sends an unmistakable message. Extremism hiding behind authority faces full consequence. Judge Jenkins commended jury diligence. Reaction swept the nation. Veterans groups hailed landmark accountability. Military commands reaffirmed commitments. Immediate reforms accelerated. Enhanced bias training. Federal oversight in base-adjacent departments. Direct reporting lines for service members. Elijah returned home that evening. He sat with his son under porch light. Sharing the weight finally lifted. Physical scars ached less. Emotional ones began true mending. Dr. Sophia Alvarez checked in days later. You carried this for all of us, she said. Elijah smiled faintly. We carried it together. The trial closed a long, painful chapter. Accountability achieved thoroughly. Wounds endured. But hope emerged stronger. Captain Elijah Grant had faced his attackers in open court. Truth prevailed completely. The promise of justice, severely tested, proved resilient that summer in Richmond. A new morning dawned for many in uniform. Captain Elijah Grant formally retired from the United States Army on a serene autumn morning exactly 1 year after the final verdicts. The small ceremony at the base felt intimate rather than grand. Close comrades stood in formation. Family sat proudly in the front row. General Marcus Hale traveled from the Pentagon to pin the retirement medal himself. His voice carried genuine warmth. "Captain Grant," he said, "your 20 years of service defended this nation overseas and, in its darkest hour, defended its very soul here at home. We are forever in your debt." Elijah accepted the honor with quiet grace. The uniform he wore that day would be his last on duty. Scars from the bullets remained etched beneath the fabric, silent reminders of the cost, yet his eyes held steady peace. He launched the Uniform Shield Foundation weeks later. The nonprofit focused solely on supporting military personnel and veterans facing discrimination or violence from law enforcement. Office mornings filled with purpose, answering calls from frightened young troops, guiding families through reporting processes, connecting victims to counseling and legal aid. Elijah listened more than he spoke, offering the calm strength born of his own journey. Tanya joined as legal director, reviewing cases, filing suits when needed. Keisha Washington partnered closely, expanding her scholarship program to include children of affected service members. Their combined efforts built a nationwide safety net. One life at a time, reforms swept through federal agencies, directly shaped by the trial's revelations. The Department of Defense and Department of Justice established joint oversight programs for law enforcement in communities with major military installations. Mandatory annual training now covered bias recognition, de-escalation with veterans, and signs of post-traumatic stress. Direct federal hotlines allowed service members to report incidents anonymously, bypassing local chains when necessary. Colonel Patricia Reyes led curriculum development, drawing from decades of observed inequities. Sergeant Lana Kim designed digital monitoring systems to flag early extremist indicators in public records and social platforms. Public awareness deepened steadily. Elijah accepted speaking invitations selectively, veteran conferences, university campuses, congressional committees. He shared his story without sensationalism, emphasizing healing over hate. Audiences sat rapt as he described the morning shots, the long nights of pain, the trial's weight. Questions always followed. How do we prevent this? How do we rebuild trust? Elijah answered with hard-earned wisdom. By choosing accountability over silence, bridge building over division, every single day, perfection is not required. Progress is. Dr. Sofia Alvarez maintained contact long after formal therapy. Monthly mornings walking quiet trails. They discussed lingering echoes. You turned personal betrayal into collective protection. She reflected one day. Elijah smiled faintly. Not alone. It took every hand extended along the way. He facilitated support groups, guiding others through similar darkness. Listening healed as much as speaking. His son, now graduated, joined the foundation full-time. Father and son worked side by side, mending bonds tested by the ordeal. Tanya's caseload grew, securing settlements that funded community outreach. Keisha's scholarships multiplied, sending dozens of military children to college, carrying forward her husband's quiet legacy. Law enforcement evolution continued. Many departments requested voluntary federal audits. Training academies integrated modules on military culture, veteran mental health, respectful interactions. Former skeptics became partners, acknowledging blind spots the trial illuminated. General Hale retired months later, spending his final time advocating reforms bearing his imprint. Annual joint audits, rapid response task forces, explicit bans on extremist affiliations. We owe Captain Grant and countless others eternal vigilance, he declared in farewell remarks. Elijah aged with quiet dignity. Gray threaded his hair, Scars faded to silver lines. Mornings at Virginia Beach became sacred ritual. He walked the shoreline at sunrise, waves whispering against sand where his blood once spilled. Pain eased gradually. Emotional burdens lightened more profoundly. He reflected on the men now imprisoned, Caldwell's long isolation, Voss's defeated ideology, Barrett's lost authority, Donovan's regretted greed, no lingering hatred, only sorrow for choices that destroyed lives, including their own. Gratitude filled those reflections more. Torres's tireless pursuit, Reyes's steadfast mentorship, Hale's institutional courage, Kim's analytical precision, Alvarez's compassionate guidance, Brooks's prosecutorial fire, Jenkins's judicial fairness, above all. Ordinary citizens, jurors who weighed evidence carefully, protesters who demanded better, everyday Americans who refused to look away. One particular morning, a group of young enlisted personnel approached on the beach. They saluted shyly. "Sir, your foundation helped my buddy after a bad stop," one said. Elijah returned the salute, then shook hands. "Keep serving proudly. We're making it safer together." Media requests persisted, but Elijah chose impact over exposure. He authored a memoir, donating all proceeds. Speaking focused on reconciliation, joint training between veterans and officers, shared understanding across divides. Keisha expanded nationally, memorials honoring the fallen and the resilient. Tanya's precedents protected future victims. Years accumulated. The foundation assisted thousands. Reforms prevented countless incidents. Patriot Vanguard dissolved into cautionary history, its name invoked in training as what never to become. Elijah's mornings remained beach walks. His son often joined. Conversations deepened. Legacy, responsibility, hope. One final sunrise. Elijah stood watching light spread across the water. He thought of the country he nearly died defending. Imperfect, divided at times, yet capable of self-correction when good people act. He whispered to the gentle waves, "We do not fight for a flawless nation. We fight to make it better. One morning, one choice, one life at a time." In the distance, formation runs echoed, voices united in cadence. The legacy lived quietly but powerfully, not in monuments, but in protected lives, rebuilt trust, enduring justice. Captain Elijah Grant had faced death twice for his country. He chose to live strengthening it. Reform took deep root. Healing spread widely. A brighter dawn arrived for all who serve. Hope, forged in trial, shone eternal. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If it moved you, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps reach more who need to hear it.